I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force One in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture. And our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at GELS, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help the equality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game-changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force one in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture, and our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at Gels, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help your quality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game-changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force one in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture. And our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at Gels, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help your quality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game-changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force One in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture. And our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at GELS, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help the equality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force one in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture. And our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at GELS, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help your quality group do so much more.
Over 4 decades shaping the future of industry in India and beyond. She is a recipient of Padma Shri, one of India's most prestigious civilian honors, awarded by the Government of India for her outstanding contribution. She has been named among Forbes' world's 100 most powerful women. Our Salesforce President and CEO South Asia, Arundhati Bhattacharya.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, namaste, and thank you all for making the time to be here. It's a great pleasure to really welcome so many women. Just the sight of all of these women who obviously are in some really, really great roles, that itself fills my heart with pleasure. The announcer was just saying about 4 decades of experience. Well, it's going to be 5 decades in 1 more year. Okay, so it's way more than the age of most of the people in this room that I've been in corporate life alone. And when I joined, getting a room this size filled with people or women in corporate life was impossible. Okay, today it's not only possible, it's more than possible, because there are thousands of you out there who haven't joined or who are online and whom we can't see. And that, again, as I said, fills my heart with pleasure. Today, we are in a way very lucky, and on the other side, still a little intimidated by the fact that we seem to be going through another industrial revolution, that of the agentic enterprise. And what appears like a precipice, I want to assure you, is not a precipice. It's just another sharp turn in the road. And why I say this is because I have found time and again that we sometimes overthink things to an extent where we feel this is just not for us. The reason for that is today the world of technology is changing so swiftly that while you're working and also taking care of your family front, you also need to keep enabling yourself. It's an added burden. And if you consider it an added burden, then automatically the mind wants to shut down. The mind wants to say, enough. Why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? I want to assure you that putting yourself through that is absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it because as you grow older, you'll find that you will grow lonelier. The friends that you had, the people that you had relationships with, everybody gets busy. Your children will get busy. Your husband will grow in a different direction. And you will be in your own world. And unless you're part of other worlds, you will not have that growth that you would want to be. You know, it's like putting a potted plant in the shade and putting the twin of that plant out in a place where there is wind and sun and rain. You will find that the one that's outside is growing much faster than the one that's in the shade, because it has so many influences working on it that it grows faster. That's what I want all of y'all to understand, and all of y'all to agree that what looks like a very, very difficult time is actually a time worth living, because it can be done. If you consider the way I grew in the organization, or in my earlier organization, I joined as a probationary officer. Unfortunately, my background was English literature. So I had to learn every step of the way. I was just telling the other group in the morning that my mother thought that banking was all about counting notes, and my father thought, well, you had to just balance the balance sheet. Neither of them really understood what banking was all about. They didn't object to it because they thought I would be sitting in one room throughout my entire career. I don't know how much I get to sit at all these days, because I seem to sit more in airport chairs than in actual office chairs. Okay, so they never had an understanding that banking could be different and that could lead to different kinds of careers. But it did. And the fact of the matter is that none of this was known to me when I stepped in to become a banker. I learned it day by day. And as I learned, I worked. So there was no taking time off in order to learn and then to lead, or in order to learn and then to work. Both need to go hand in hand. And that is precisely what you need to do today. Learn about the agentic age, experiment with it. Think about a woman like me sitting at a desk, in the weekends, playing along with OpenAI and Gemini and Claude, and the next day morning asking my solution engineering people how many of them had actually tried using the same, the answers to the prompts 5 times, and at the end of the 5th attempt, whether they were getting better answers or worse, because I was getting horrible answers after I had done it for 5 times, 5 iterations. And like they would say, yeah, I don't think we've done it. We'll try it out. Feels so good. Feels so good that I have done something that they still haven't gotten around to. And that is what, you need to have that the joy in discovering things, because today's day and age makes it possible for you. I want all of y'all to have that courage. I want all of y'all to be brave. And by the way, bravery are of different kinds. We all agree that a person like the Rani of Jhansi, she was brave. She actually got on a horse with a sword and actually fought a battle. Not all of us do it. But bravery can be of various kinds. And I can tell you of the kinds of women I have seen being very, very brave. I've known of single mothers who have still gone ahead and adopted a child and brought them up single-handed in spite of all the problems that they have in my earlier organization, which loves transferring people. And I used to say that the moment you get a good tailor to sew a blouse or a good hairdresser to do your hair, you are going to get transferred. That's the norm. So even for that, with a company of that size, my people, and considering that this woman that I'm talking about, even though she's a single mother, she's single-handedly bringing up an adopted child and has a very fulfilling life while doing it. So take on those challenges, be brave. There's no point in taking the easy way out. I would say, today is a day where you really need to ensure that the curiosity that brought you to where you are today, you need to really protect it with all your might. Is very important, because if you're not doing that, then you are actually going to fall behind. That curiosity is very, very important for us. And while you are doing that, make sure that you are passing this on to the next generation. The next generation, by the way, is constantly asking the questions, what should we do in order to ensure that, we have a good career, that we have a good life? And many of us don't have an answer to that. I would like to say that the way the next generation can do this better is if they remain curious, is if they continue to be creative, is if they continue to be empathetic. Because again, believe me, empathy is your super strength. Your ability to listen, because women have been in the listener's role for millennia. That is your super strength. Don't ever forget that being empathetic, being human, being a good listener, realizing what people are going through, and then reacting to them that way, that is really and truly a super strength. It's not something that AI will develop in a hurry. AI can do things that you teach it to do. But in order for it to become empathetic will take a long, long time. The human element in you is the one element that you must really and truly guard with all your being in order to ensure that you are successful and you make the next generation successful. I just want to also tell you that, while we do have a voice, we don't always raise it. It's important for us to raise it, to demand equality. We don't do that always. Sometimes we take the easy way out and just remain silent. It's never nice, to walk into a room full of people who are not women, and yet to raise your voice in order to say something that needs to be said. For all of you who have a voice, I want to remind you that there are 10,000 people behind each of you that don't have a voice. And it is our responsibility to raise our voices on their behalf. So please remember, you need to demand equality in all that you do. And while doing it, ensure that you yourself are trustworthy, that you yourself are carrying forward the trust of the people, that people have reposed in you, that you are doing the right thing by them. In the end, in conclusion, because I have exactly one more second, I have to tell you that it's very important for you to ensure that you know that the road ahead is just opening up, and you have to go and you have to lead the way. You need to claim that you are the right person to lead that way. So don't give up on that. Don't give up on the fact that there might be obstacles. Obstacles are there to challenge you. Obstacles are there for you to tell those stories when you are up here narrating what you have been through in your life. So take the obstacles as opportunities. They are opportunities to step up, to step ahead, and to ensure that you are actually on your way. So with that, I will conclude and ask the organizers to bring on the next panel, which I'm assuring you, we have the most amazing leaders over here, and you would love to hear their stories. Thank you.
Thank you, AB ma'am. We are incredibly lucky to have you today with us at the helm of Salesforce South Asia. With that, let's begin our first session, Humans and Agents Together, Leading the Agentic Enterprise. This includes an incredible lineup of senior executives across some of India's fastest growing industries. Please welcome to the stage our moderator, RVP of Sales at Salesforce, Aditi Sharma. And distinguished panelist, Chief Compliance Officer, Honeywell, Pia Haldar, Group Head of Virtual Relationship and Infrastructure, HDFC Bank, Ashima Bhatt. President and Chief People Officer, Salesforce, Nathalie Scardino. With that, over to you, Aditi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really, really excited to have you, Pia, Ashiba, and Natalie here with me. Arundhati ma'am ended on a very, very positive note that embrace the realm of possibilities that exist. And it couldn't be truer than now in this world where agentic AI has opened a world of possibilities for us. And today I'm here to talk to you all about how agents and humans are coming together to make our lives better. And I think one of the biggest arguments in favor of AI in enterprises is how it complements humans' capability. And today I've got three very, very excellent esteemed speakers, and it's my honor to speak to them to hear their thoughts, not just about how AI and humans come together, but also what does it mean for us women leading the charge here. So Pia, I'll get started with you and feel free to chime in. As the Chief Compliance Officer at Honeywell, I'm sure your focus is to grow business while remaining compliant. And in this world of AI, ethical AI is something so important. As you're embracing AI in your organizations, what do you think are, how do you handle some of these ethical concerns and how do you keep yourself on the track of growth?
So Aditi, I think it's important. Ethical AI, as we were discussing earlier, is extremely important. From a organization perspective, we don't differentiate between, say, compliance. That's the domain I lead versus ethical AI. I think it's merged and combined. As we transform, even regulators and other government organizations are looking at how fast we are adopting AI. While we are adopting AI strategies, I think what we have to see is that there is a fine balance in what it delivers. So from a compliance standpoint, that's what we're doing. We are ensuring that there is ethics which is involved, and yet we are compliant in delivering what we deliver.
Very interesting. You're right. I think the pace of change is fastest now than we have seen any other time, right? And you're right. While we adopt AI, bring in efficiencies, it's very important for us to accept that there's going to be change. There's going to be disruption and change. And Ashima, you just told me you were the third employee in HDFC Bank. So I can't even. It's one of the largest banks in the country, right? I can't imagine the number of revolutions of technology that you have seen it. I think without a doubt, the change management when it comes to AI adoption is huge. From your experience, have you seen some barriers that have come in when people are talking about AI and adopting AI at work?
Aditi, I would say that if you look out for any research that's done typically right now, and the numbers could vary, but about 70 to 75% of the people feel that AI will take away jobs. That's a very important matrix. The research could vary. And anywhere around 80% of people think that AI is going to compromise data. So those are the two big barriers that we find in banking when we are talking about even at HDFC Bank, that those are the two, the first one being the most major barrier. So our challenge remains to explain to people that it's not about the choice between human and machine. It's both together. So that becomes very, very important to how mix the two so that you can get the maximum benefit of AI. So yes, there are barriers, but I'm sure we can overcome them because that's the need of the hour.
And I'm sure you've adopted a lot of AI technologies. You were one of the earliest adopters, being
Yes.
at the intersection really of high touch and high tech, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was very similar for us also, Natalie, right? When we started bringing out solutions, Salesforce always believes that Salesforce is actually the customer zero first, right? All our solutions and technologies, we adopted first at Salesforce. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the examples where you have seen agents improve the way you and it helps Salesforce teams as well? What are some of the examples on top of your mind?
Well, thank you for having me. Good to see everybody. So for part of the question, you referred to Customer Zero. So at Salesforce, we have a strategy that is known as Customer Zero, which means that we are the first to use our technology before we deploy it to a customer. And that has had a huge advantage for us as far as testing, learning, iterating. And over the last 18 months, I think the biggest transformation has really been around how our employees are collaborating with agents to redesign their workflows. So we have Slack, which is where all of our employees live. It's where I start my day and I finish my day. I'm sure you are the same. And every morning, for example, Slack will now look at my calendar and it will give me an overview of who I'm meeting, why we're meeting, and what shared goals we might want to achieve. Before, that time may have been spent very, very differently. And now you're able to get so much data in Slack and activate an agent depending on who you're meeting or what the outcome is that you're driving. But every single job has been redesigned. And a lot of our employees are experimenting with that. But we see that engagement rises the more that your manager also leans into experimenting with AI. because it's about learning, failing fast, discovering something new, and then sharing that feedback. So it's been a huge transformation as how work is getting done.
You're absolutely right. I think the fact that we were all consumers of AI, as consumers, we started leveraging AI. I think the journey of us adopting at enterprise has become so much easier, right? And the fact that now I think that fear psychosis is slightly getting replaced by thinking, how do we bring more efficiencies at scale in the work that I do? I think those are some of the things that definitely are coming out. And being senior leaders yourself, I'm sure you've seen some shifts in mindset, some new characteristics and traits and skills that you felt that your team needs to learn to remain relevant. And because we have got such a great group of women here, Pia, I also wanted to ask you, apart from the obvious, prompt engineering, data literacy, these are things that we all need to know to leverage an AI tool well. What are some of these digital skills that we as women need to think about or overinvest in if we want to continue to stay relevant in this era?
So, Aditi, I would say from my perspective, I think there are two skills, and one of them is adaptability. As I mentioned, that's my favorite word these days, because unless you're able to adapt to the change, it will be very difficult for all of us, men, women, to keep up at getting to know things. I think that's the first skill, extremely important. The second one I would say is curiosity, because unless you are wanting to find out different ways of doing things, it'll be extremely difficult. And as a leader, I think the curiosity should start with me and then it should percolate down to the team. So I would say that, well, they may not in true sense be skills, but adaptability and curiosity are two things that is extremely important for newer leaders and younger leaders to have, to sort of get engaged in this entire journey.
Very true. Actually, adaptability and curiosity has nothing to do as such with AI, but it has everything to do with the revolution of AI that we are going through, right? Ashma, I would love to know your thoughts, right? What are some of the skills as a banker you are inculcating? And I also completely understand that, you're playing this delicate balance of keeping one eye on the long-term goals, and then the other eye on the immediate short-term financial performance. With the influx of AI, what are the areas where you are using some of these skills very proactively in your day-to-day decision making? And back to the question that I had asked Pia, what are some of the skills that you are encouraging, women leaders and leaders around you to think about?
Aditi, I think with all the people in the room, one of the most important things on AI is a complete clarity of objective. We all keep talking about AI, but the clarity of what do we want that AI to accomplish is extremely important. And when you're in the banking sector, especially when you're talking about what you want to accomplish, you can't say, let me take a whole bunch of micro tasks and put them into an AI, and little by little. You have to be very disruptive. You have to actually think differently, not the way you do banking, but let's see, completely different way of doing banking. So that's one of the big skills that you need, is not skills, it's something that you need to have AI, is just the complete clarity. The other very important skill, and not just for AI implementation, is to be able to work cross-functionally. Because AI is not going to be like, in my own little domain, let me see if I can do AI. AI is going to impact the whole organization and actually horizontally. So that is a big important trait, if you will, to talk about. As far as my decision making is concerned, both short term and long term, I think AI has given earlier decisions, I would say, since I've been with the bank for a long time, the decisions were based on data but more intuitive. Now you can keep testing scenarios with AI. It's very important to keep testing, saying what will work, what will not work. So the decision making has become very well rounded. And you can use the same AI to tell you what next to do and then think and course correct as you go along, which was not so simple earlier. So I think for that, I see a lot of change in the way the decision making is happening in not just in our organization, across organizations.
I love what you just said, that AI has actually helped you collaborate better with the teams around. And it's not actually standalone what you do yourself. It's more like a systems thinking, right, Natalie, where
Yes.
everything has to, it has to work in conjunction with so many different people, technologies, systems. And I want to shift that focus because we are talking about the skills, about adaptability, curiosity, clarity, and collaboration. Natalie, I want to shift the conversation to a little bit on culture. Right, Salesforce 111 model is well known to everyone. It's a core part of our culture. Being, a proud member of Salesforce Women's Network myself, we live those values every single day. As you bring agents into our work environment, how do you think it impacts that culture, and how do you still make sure that that remains a central mission still?
Yeah, I mean, culture is obviously fundamental in any transformation, because in a world of agents and human workforce, there is so much to learn that it can also sometimes feel overwhelming or confusing. Where do I start? Which tool do I trust? What is the ethics of an agent? So there's a lot to navigate, and it can be easy to feel as well or get distracted. And I think real cultures that have the heartbeat of the employee experience are cultures that are grounded in values. So for us, anytime that we're thinking about a change in our strategy, whether it's for the employee experience or, to your point, the 111 model, we always think about what is the impact on trust, what is the impact to our customer success, to equality, to sustainability or innovation. And every decision, we have a framework where we say, okay, this is how it may or may not impact our 5 fundamental values. And I think the companies that truly will be able to differentiate themselves are not necessarily the ones that adopt technology as quickly as possible. It's the ones that are able not only to adopt, but to have those values at the center of everything that they do. And that is the differentiation that I think is fundamental more than ever before. A good mentor of mine said to me 20 years ago, Natalie, every day your values and principles will be challenged, and your job is not to let them be. And that can be hard again in a world that can be distracting. So having that focus around values and what are your non-negotiables is so, so important right now.
I just love what you said, and it's such an amazing lesson to all of us outside of the context of AI as well, that the values remain fundamental to us. That's defined who we are, whether you are an individual or as an organization. And it's very important to keep remembering that as you go through different phases in your career and in your life. Pia, taking on a cue from there about the pace of change, right? What AI started off as being, helping individuals and organizations become more efficient, right? What it has opened, the world that it has opened up to is a world without any limitation of possibilities, right? Even the impossible is possible today. Coming from a regulatory kind of an environment, right? Being the chief compliance officer, I wanted to ask you, how do you as a leader shift from this AI for efficiency thought process to AI for innovation thought process, right? And what are the kind of barriers do you see, and how do you overcome that? Long question.
So the answer, I think, is pretty small. I think it's all subject to the industry that you are in and the regulations that surround that particular industry. For example, if I were to look at the organization that I am in, we're into 2 very distinct areas. There's aerospace and there's automation. The regulations for aerospace is way more than what I might have for automation, because aerospace, there are people who are flying in an aeroplane, and I have to ensure that all the gadgets in the cockpit are working fine. So versus an automation. So I think to answer your question, the regulations are very different. Highly regulated industries, which could be, aerospace or medical industries, I think one has to be extremely careful when it comes to using AI, because as Natalie said, I think there are certain things which are non-negotiable over there, and facts of judgment, as well as where there's a judgment call that needs to be taken. I think a human still has to be there. So while we continue to innovate and and use AI and all this, I think when it comes to a highly regulated industry, I think one has to be extremely mindful and careful of deployment. And as I understand that there are many ways of doing it, there's sandbox and so on and so forth, and you do it in a smaller, structured way. But you can't take away the human over there, because the judgment piece still has to rest with an individual. So as a compliance officer, if it were to be our industry, then the judgment call would come, the buck would stop at a person, is what I would say. So interesting. So while we are using it, but I think again it would depend on the industry and the regulations and the touch points that each of these industry touches. So if there is a human involved or a medical diagnosis which is involved, I think the human element would be far more than, say, just an AI element.
Cautious deployment.
Cautious
to
deployment.
Still foster
Yes,
innovation.
absolutely.
Another regulated industry, but also very high customer touch point, right? You were telling me that all non-physical branches is what your purview is. So
Yes.
I'm sure you're seeing this more often, that your customers actually, first point of contact of your customer is actually maybe with a virtual assistant. Being a customer of HDFC Bank myself, I do know, I don't remember the last time I spoke to a human, because most of the queries get answered, right? How do you still ensure that human element of trust and empathy that HDFC Bank is associated with still shows up even when the interaction of your customers happens with virtual assistants or AI agents?
It's very simple how we do it. We make sure that, like I said earlier, the choice is not between whether it should be a machine or a human. It's both working together. Let me take an example, Aditi. If I have an agent, which is part of my virtual team, a human being calling you or you calling in. Now, how AI would help there is if I need to know about you. As an agent, it's very difficult. What does Aditi buy? What is her saving pattern? What is the credit card statement? Does she like movies? We can actually get a lot of information about the customer. Between the two statements, either a credit card or an account statement. Now, to be able to do that with speed, with precision, and consistency, that's where AI will help me. And it'll suggest to the agent, the human being, saying that Aditi looks like she needs, say, a X card, whatever that card may be. So when the human is talking to you, it becomes so much easier. Now, multiply that with scale. With the number of customers we have, and each of the agents on the teams that I look after, they're probably doing 100 or 150 calls a day. To be able to do that with precision, give the customer the solution they are looking for, that's where we blend the two in. So AI for us is what I should say is a foundation. It provides the prompts on a real-time basis. It provides the information to be able to analyze and say, if my agent calls you and says, Aditi, you look like you're spending a lot on food ordering apps. If you take a Swiggy card, for example, you'll end up saving 8,000 rupees a month. Now that then becomes a value proposition for you. So we blend both the AI, the foundation, with the human touch, the human empathy, the human ingenuity, and the emotion, of course. So
Absolutely.
that's super important.
And the creativity aspect as well, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
customers their problems are creative as well. You need creative solutions.
You have to. I mean, how many of us in this room would have been on if you've ordered something, for example, there has to be what I call an escape hatch in every bot interaction. Because if you've ordered food and your food is not okay, you end up going on talking to a bot. You need that escape point. So we build that into the AI. That at any point of time, if you think you're getting frustrated with having a chatbot or something, you can immediately move to a human who will probably understand what you're going through much better.
So true. I think we all can agree. The world that we live in is humans and agents working together. And Natalie, I wanted to ask you a question that I've thought about a lot of times, and I'm sure all of us are thinking about it. We are no longer managing a team of humans anymore. In every sphere of our life, we are managing humans and agents. Both Pia and Ashima talked about how humans and agents are all collaborating together. In your view, what are those leadership skills that we as leaders need to have to manage this digital labor plus the human labor that's working together? What does your experience say?
Well, I think you both mentioned some of those, curiosity. We know that in an agentic world, the quality of your question or your prompt becomes the quality of your output or your product or your customer experience. If you ask, and you've probably seen it, with LLMs, you ask one question, you look at the response and you think, no, I know I can get more insights there. If you say, I'm making it up, like, which mountain should I climb? You're going to get a response. Which mountain should I climb with this altitude? You're going to get a response. Which mountain should I climb in this specific, time zone? It's different. So the quality of your question becomes the quality of the work. And I think that requires critical thinking and judgment, not to rely on the first kind of outcome. How do you get better, better, better? And that comes with the human understanding that there are other options. I think the other power of the agentic workforce transformation is, we've just seen a huge amount of entrepreneurs develop because, again, now the skills are around your ability to prompt differently. Data literacy, I think, is a core skill in any role, understanding, interpreting data. But I think the number one at the leadership level has to be empathy and active listening. It is impossible to think that anybody knows how every single piece of this plays out. And I really believe that the strongest leaders are the ones that listen for signals, listen for cues, listen to the feedback, and take that feedback and build better employee experiences, better products, better customer service. Because the voice of the customer or the voice of the employee is what you're picking up in those signals. So active listening, I think, has always got to be up there.
Couldn't agree more. In this world of noise, of signals all around, active listening, empathy. I also, I started noticing, and this is it's a good segue for my next question as well. Knowledge has become commoditized now. Anyone and everyone you talk to. Earlier, you held knowledge, which you would go and talk to your customers. But now your customers are aware, your sales reps, your teams are all aware. While knowledge on one hand has become very commoditized, learning has become even more important than any other time, right? How you prompt, how you ask more questions, the example that you gave. And I wanted to ask this question to you all because, we also have a lot of women in this room. What is that one superpower that you would love for women to develop to stay relevant, not just in the agentic era, but all the technological revolutions that come forward? What are those superpowers that you would want women in this room to have?
Interesting. So I would say women leaders need to start investing in themselves. I think more often than not, we wait for the organization to sponsor us, to train us, to send us for a particular training. But I think it's time where, as diversity or as women leaders, I think that self building oneself, investing in oneself should start by us, in the sense that let's not wait for someone to do it for us, but do it for ourselves. I think that is critical, and certainly not wait for the organization to do it. That's one. And secondly, I think, I come back to the fact of my adaptability. That's my favorite word these days. I think, adoption of either technology or style or whatever is critical. So I think all of us have to sort of get our mindset, adjusted in such a way that we're able to adopt, make changes, go with what is the need of the hour faster than ever before. We as women leaders can't slack on that. I think these are two things that I feel, critical for at least women. And of course, have a voice, when there is a discussion which is going on, don't be the silent observer and the quiet one who's just listening in, have an opinion, share it, with whatever little knowledge you have. And hence, going back to my first answer, that knowledge is important for you to be that voice and, sort of put it on the table.
So true. As we go through different phases in our life and career, I think one of the most important skills is to be adaptable to the environments you're working in, to the places you're living in, to the people you're dealing with. Completely agree with you. Ashma, what's your thought process? What is that one superpower you would want women in this room to think about and adopt?
I think since I see so many women in this room, I think all of them have amazing superpowers to begin with. And we were talking earlier that as women, we intuitively know how to juggle things. We intuitively know how to multitask. But the one thing, it may not be a superpower, but the one thing that I think across for AI, not for AI, for anything that women need is to trust their own judgment and not keep second guessing what they're saying. And like Pia said, if there is an opportunity, I find women are actually kind of first seeing the opportunity in their own brain. I mean, if your supervisor comes and says, "Hey, I have a project," and who will want to put it? The woman starts analyzing, can I do this? Meanwhile, I'm sorry, there are men in the room, but the men will put up their hand first. And they will worry about the consequences later. I think that's a superpower that women need to develop, that they can do it and not second guess that they can do it.
So well said. This is the power of hindsight that I love to hear, right? Don't second guess yourself. Believe in yourself that you're right up there. Natalie, what do you think is that one superpower?
I mean, all of that resonates as well. And there are so many superpowers of women, as we know. I think it is not waiting for permission either. No one is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, here is your destiny. And sometimes we can think that, hey, my work is just going to speak for itself. Someone will notice how hard I'm working. And they probably do. But I have kind of throughout my career heard a lot of feedback from mentors around, hey, advocate for yourself. Like, be proud to show, hey, I just finished this course, or let me go and ask a question to somebody that I don't know, and like maybe we can co-create something. I know everyone has brilliant questions, and so not waiting for permission to ask. I think that is something that we can all push together. And the spirit of community sharing. Some of my best experiences in my career are often, and I have peers who are both genders. But if I think about a couple of real big career milestones, it's the women around me that have nudged me to say, oh no, you don't need to have 10 out of 10 of those skills. You got it. Don't second guess yourself, like go for it. So I think the power of community is super important. Like you think about your biggest cheerleaders. My mother is mine. I can do no wrong, which is so nice with my mom. But she'll be like, no, you just go in there and don't take no for an answer. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. But she's like, no, really. And so you just need that with your peers to say, no, you got it. Don't wait for permission. And I think that's been really powerful.
So powerful. I think for me, the biggest superpower that women can embrace is to be fearless. Fearless in demanding what you think you deserve, fearless in expressing your ambition and going for it. And I think in this agentic era, being fearless and embracing change is even more important.
Fearless is a great word for it. And fearless to me doesn't mean that it's without fear. It means that you are willing to do something even when you have fear. It doesn't mean that it just vanishes all of a sudden and I'm fearless. It's that you push yourself beyond the fear.
Be human, not superhuman, accept that there are limitations, but still be fearless. Ladies, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, weaving in agentic with how humans and agents work together and bringing in the aspect of what women can do to lead this charge. Really grateful for this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
This way.
Thank you, Aditi, Pia, Ashima, and Natalie for that incredible session. I know we all are leaving this session inspired, empowered, and energized. Now, let's carry that energy forward into our second session for the day. Future-proof careers, skills to succeed in the AI era, as there's more in store. Please welcome to the stage our moderator, VP Software Engineering of Salesforce, Geeta Chandrasekhar. Joining her today are our esteemed panelists, all of whom leading the AI revolution in their respective industries. Let's welcome our panelists. Head of Digital, Airbus India, Annapurna Vishwanathan. Head of Sales, WeWork, Praneet Sidhu. SVP, Customer Success, Industries and Revenue Cloud, Salesforce, Sridevi Rao. With that, over to you, Geeta.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys all doing? Thank you. Hope you are enjoying the sessions today. And thank you all for joining us, both in person and online. It is very exciting and inspiring to have you all in audience. So I want to kick this off by asking all of you guys a question, right? Why only our panelists, right? So in this new era, it's imperative that we need to have new skills, right? What is that one new skill that you guys have learned in the past year? I want you guys to think about it and hold that thought, because you will get to discuss more about it in our networking event after all these sessions, and you will get to meet all the great leaders and exchange thoughts. Having said that, I will quickly move on to my wonderful panelists here, and I have a question for all of you guys to share your thoughts on. How has AI evolved the way you lead in the past years? And what advice do you have for all of these wonderful women to evolve their careers and stay relevant and innovate in this fast-changing era? I'll invite Praneet to kick us off.
Sure. I think moving from managing execution to actually orchestrating outcomes is how things have changed for us. It's very, very important to marry the speed of AI with human creativity so that we bring about the best outcomes. So AI does all the mundane tasks, which is data crunching, research, analysis, etc. And the team goes ahead and focuses on relationship building, negotiation, reading the room, which AI cannot replicate, right? Understanding exactly what a client needs, and then according to that, giving some consultation and then sending out a proposal and closing. So I think the emotional quotient, which is intuition, empathy, relationship building, will always stay relevant. It will not be replaced by AI. So if I was to give any advice to all the young women leaders here, it would be one, direct AI smartly, learn how to direct it. You don't need to be an engineer, just know how to direct it. Two, double down on the emotional quotient because that will always stay intact. And three, be the person who brings AI into your business to bring about the best outcome. Be that person who does that.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful. Anu, would you share your thoughts?
Very similar line of thinking. If I see the way we lead, I would say again, it may vary by job a little, but for me, I'd say 60 to 70% of my job is about people. It's about human connections. Maybe 20% will be technology, and maybe another 20 to 10 to 20% maybe processes and standardization and all of that. And if a majority of what I do is about people, then I don't see the need to change. I think just fundamentally, right, being successful at what you do is a combination of intellect and empathy. And if you can channel that balance well of intellect and empathy and do that in a way that's authentically you, I don't think that you constantly need to evolve yourself from your leadership style in the way you lead. And so, but there are a few things that you need to think through, right? Because while you may not, while my job will probably have a strong human connection aspect, I also understand the role that I play in terms of environment creation. And that's a big part of what I do. In which case, I have to make sure that the environment I create for my people is one that allows for innovation. On a day-to-day basis, when I have people come in and they see the gaps between processes or between handoffs, and they have brilliant ideas to innovate, to fix the issues nobody's talking about, to go put, seal the cracks, I've got to make sure they feel safe to do that. I've got to make sure that it's okay for them to fail. It's important for us to celebrate that failure. And that for me is the main change in how we lead in this era.
Thank you so much. Very insightful. Shri, can you share, Shri Devi, can you share your thoughts on how it is done in Salesforce?
Yeah, it's a good leading question, and I think because that's the pretty much the framing of the conversation we are having today, I definitely agree with a lot of the points that both of them have talked about in terms of how we mature the leaders, in terms of how they have to naturally evolve and learn. One thing that stands out for me definitely this year, so much after, like Sugi said in the morning also about the, after announcing Agentforce at Dreamforce, we really started to think about what I would say is agentic delegation. So we, as leaders, we always have to delegate. You're measured by how well you delegate and how well you build your teams to be, to drive capacity within the team. And when you're thinking about agentic delegation, it now starts to become trying to have that judgment on what can be an agentic work, and then where do you come in with the EQ, like you very appropriately mentioned. After that, where do you bring in the judgment? Like there's a lot of work, the mundane, the heavy lifting, the data crunching that agents can do. And now the skills have to become, how precise can your question be? How contextually relevant can your processing of the response be? So that's where I think the shift is really happening, because if you give a generic question, you give a statistically correct response, but it's a tone deaf response. Like you're not taking into account of the context. And depending on what you're preparing for, absolutely use agentic capabilities, learn it, like you very appropriately said, Anu, and then use your judgment and discretion and emotional intelligence to make those connections. Because that's why you hear these words such as storytelling, be empathetic. That's what that means. Take the content, apply context, use your judgment, make the connection, repeat. That's how I would say that is the evolution.
Thank you. So if I could kind of summarize this, in this deeply agentic era, it is still in the front and center of it, humans with real emotions, and what works is the real connections between two humans working alongside the agents, and keeping empathy is the key to success, right? And then come with that the discretion and judgment, apply that alongside the context, and then we will have possibly real outcomes and real results. Thank you so much. Moving on to my next question, I invite Anu to answer this question. You are from aerospace industry. In industries like aerospace, there is zero tolerance for trust issues, right? It's absolutely non-negotiable. So in an environment like that, how do you ensure AI is deployed responsibly? And what role does every employee, not just the technical team, play in that?
That's a very wonderful and pertinent question for the aerospace industry, right? I mean, think of ourselves as consumers before even I think of myself as an employee. Would I even want a extremely minute possibility that some decision was not made sound? Absolutely not. And so philosophically, in the aviation industry, and I speak for Airbus, is the idea is that a human is always in the loop. And that's a non-negotiable, because safety is a non-negotiable. It's an absolute non-negotiable. And so in everything we do, whether it is a small process automation, whatever we do, that a human is always in the loop. And the philosophy with which we embrace AI is that AI is meant to facilitate the life of an engineer or any employee, but an AI is not meant to decide. That decision is always with a human. And that's an extremely critical, axis on which the adoption of AI in aviation works. And when you think about it, how does this play out on a day-to-day basis, right? So we have a very federated AI architecture where the decision making is always centralized. So people have the flexibility to use and to try out AI simulations and to try use cases, whether it's shop floor, whether it's an engineer, whether it's a software engineer, whether it's an HR professional. But you always come back to the core federation to make sure that responsible use of AI. And so that's really the heart of how we embrace AI. And aviation has grown up with the ideology of that safety first. It now has evolved to say responsible AI and safety first.
Thank you so much. So we use AI to automate tasks, but use our judgment to put it out in the deployment scenario, right? You are in a totally different industry, right? From moving on from Anu to you, Praneeth. So as humans and agents work together, right, our landscape is changing tremendously. What role does the physical environment, the office space, how is that evolving and changing in this agentic era? And how thoughtfully imagining the workspace will make it easier for humans and agents to work alongside each other?
Yeah, so this question is close to my heart, considering what we do at WeWork. It's extremely crucial to understand what is the kind of work an AI agent is going to be doing and what are the humans going to be responsible for. Once you have that clarity, the question is not, do I need office space? The question is, what is the kind of office space do I need? And we build office spaces around that. So whether it is seamless technology, whether it is quiet zones so that they can focus and do deep thinking, whether it is open collab spaces for folks to come and collaborate, co-create, because large enterprises don't come and just do heads down heavy work, right? They come to co-create, they collaborate, strategize, maybe work on some important decision making that they need to do. In fact, we are seeing a trend where enterprise companies are asking for 30 to 50% more open and collaborative spaces versus how it was earlier. And it's just growing in that matter. So once you understand the criteria of what are the kind of spaces that people want, or what job or role is going to be managed by each human or the AI agent, you integrate it and then provide spaces that work for the overall structure of things.
Thank you so much. It's an aha moment where you said that we are not just asking for, do I need a workspace, but what kind of
Yeah.
workspaces do we need? And it's not imagining the new workspaces, it's actually reimagining it,
Right.
right? And wonderful. Thank you for sharing your thoughts there. Sridevi, I want to ask you this. At Salesforce, we have identified the skills of the future. It could be storytelling, it could be data interpretations, or it could be adaptability alongside the agentic skills. In this scenario, how are you doubling down on distinctly human capabilities? And how would you kind of, apply that to advancing your team members' career?
This one is definitely very dear to my heart, and I know there's a few members of my team in the audience, and they can definitely relate with this. First of all, we are definitely investing deeply in especially the frontline managers and people leaders, to be very empathetic to the cognitive overload that we are asking of our teams. So we are asking them to learn, to upskill, and then apply, and then do it really, really fast, and do it already. So that's a lot of cognitive load on the teams, and the stress shows up. And at this point, it is definitely the outcomes matter and the productivity matters. But what really matters is also how we are taking care of our people. So one big part is definitely investing in training and being available to hear what people are thinking, feeling, saying, and what conversations are we having on the floor, and making space for that. That is the number one pillar. Like we operate on when we have a vision and a strategy and an execution plan. Your vision has to encompass the well-being of the people who are then going to do the strategy and the execution. Outside of that, how am I doubling down? A very good example that comes to mind, which we are doing it every day, is presentations. We live and die by presentations, right? Which is now becoming storytelling. And I am completely very, very particular that nobody reads from a slide. If anybody in my team puts up a slide and they tell me 12% adoption, decline in 5% retention, I'm like, stop. The meeting is now going to close. And this is being enforced because I can read the data without you. In fact, I can probably bring up that data even without the slide, because we all have the tools to do this today. And if you haven't used Slackbots, and if you're not using it, that's one of our favorite tools to do this. What I want to hear, and what every leader wants to hear, is what's the story behind those numbers. I would like to hear a story that says this particular account is down 12% on adoption, because there's a new CFO and there is a reorganization going on. That's the context that maybe an AI can pull up as a headline from somewhere, but maybe the AI made the connection or maybe it didn't. There is sentiment analysis and it can be done, but then it goes down to don't read from the slides, be a storyteller. Then again, what is the storytelling? Like we say it so much, but I just want to take 30 seconds on this topic of storytelling. The reason we like storytelling, and everybody here loves movies, right? I mean, we love Bollywood, we love watching movies because they tell a story. And why do we like it? Because it evokes a certain emotion. It could be romantic, it could be tragic, it could be flirtatious, it could be something, but it evokes an emotion. And that emotion evokes a feeling, and that feeling makes you do things, makes you remember things. So ultimately, that's why storytelling is so important. What does 12% mean? It's nothing to nobody. But when the 12% is connected with a story, you're prompted into an action. And that's what we are really trying to bring into, whether we are doing a quarterly business review or a daily stand-up or whatever it is. Tell me the story.
In fact, if I may just add to what Sridevi is saying, we were just having this conversation in the previous panel was going on. When you're going on with the storytelling and when you add the personal touch, it really evokes feelings and it resonates with you, and then automatically you're intrigued by the overall story and you'll always remember it. But if it becomes a little mundane and just, like she mentioned, just numbers and stuff, you tend to forget it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in and thank you for sharing your thoughts. So, if I could kind of draw a parallel to every data to kind of create meaningful outcome, you need the context. For similarly, the common theme from all the three of you that shared your thoughts is in the center of all of this. The secret ingredient is human emotions, building connections, creating space for collaboration. I think that creates the secret sauce for winning here. Right. Having said that, I want to invite each of you to share your thoughts about, as a leader, how has your own personal and definition of leading a team evolved alongside the AI and agentic era? Can you start off with that, Anu?
Sure. I think if I just look back at my career, maybe 5, 10 years ago, success meant that delivering a project at scale, tough timelines, and you emerge as the hero. And, that's what success was. But, when I look at it today, that's not the definition of success. The definition of success is a little different. It's about being able to look around the corner. It's about being able to see where the future is headed. And in being able to influence many, many minds in looking at that future and being open to it. And if I look at it from that perspective, again, now what I would love for each individual on my team to think about is that how will you create an environment where AI and human intelligence and human decision making can coexist. So now what we're solving for is not about, hey, can you deliver this project on time? Can you get this done on time? That's not success anymore. The success is, your ability to look around the corner, your ability to think ahead and start preparing for it right today. And in being able to, genuinely think through and a future where we coexist, we know the boundaries, we understand the guardrails, and we create a sustainable future. And I think influencing that environment, allowing for people to think that way, and being able to show people that that's the way thought process needs to evolve, I think is what changes with leadership, in this era.
Oh, thank you. Coexistence, right? So that's the thing that I'm taking away from what you said. Praneeth, if you could share your thoughts.
It's similar thought process. I think it's very, very important to integrate AI and human beings to work together. And AI definitely makes life easier and quickens things up for us. We just need to focus on the other stuff. Like we've already talked about strategy and planning and thinking, even talking about the emotional quotient. But I feel there are studies, in fact, that say that 70% of human skills will always stay relevant. However, it's shifting towards coaching, mentoring, strategizing, deepening relationships. That's extremely important. So we have all that time, especially in the sales function, to focus on relationship building and understanding what a customer actually requires versus just sitting up and figuring out the data analysis and the company profile and all of that. So while AI helps us to speeden things up, it's important that we focus on the human quotient, like Anu just mentioned.
I think in a way the AI era and the agents are enabling us and giving back us time to build deeper connections, put a forward-looking strategy.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Sridevi?
I like the choice of words, Anu, you were using about what's around the corner and trying to predict what's around the corner. With AI, first of all, in any context, there's so many shades of gray. There's so many shades of gray. We just don't have enough cycles. Or in the past, we didn't have enough cycles to pursue every thread and every line to see what would then the outcome be.
Yes.
But with the speed at which we can now process content, and we can take multiple data sources together and build that connective tissue, is you can actually start to explore the shades of gray. And those nuances become the differentiator. Because now everybody has data. Data is the new currency. Everybody has data. How do you synthesize this data? How do you start applying the context in terms of what is valuable and what conversation do you want to have? Like I very appropriately said, Praneeth, is the topic about making space for mentoring and coaching. I mean, I think everybody, most people in this room are people managers, right? All people managers?
Quite a few.
Quite a few hands are people
Quite a
managers.
few.
So how many times we think about having a one-on-one coaching session with an employee, but somewhere it meanders into a project or a topic or something that didn't work, and then it becomes a very work task conversation, very transactional. But now we can really have transformational conversations because now you're really focusing more on how do you bring down barriers? How do you teach them to align with something else outside of your scope? Because today, because everybody is moving fast, in a big company, it's very easy to fall out of alignment because every swim lane is moving at its own velocity. So an important aspect is to drive that alignment. So when you're in coaching sessions and you're mentoring, focusing a lot on up-leveling or elevating the altitude of the conversation. So you're really driving for a momentum, like 1 + 1 is exponentially significant in terms of the outcome. That's where I would
I couldn't agree more with what you said, Sridevi. It's absolutely a multiplier effect that we are looking at right now. And yes, everything is changing so fast, and we are all trying this catch-up game, right? No one is kind of, caught up with it completely. We're trying to look ahead of it, trying to use the skills and the collaborative wisdom that we have to kind of, sort out and solve for the problems that are around the corner, right? I've heard from all of you guys, and especially Praneeth, that in this new era, right, a lot of tasks are getting automated through AI, and our workspaces are becoming collaboration hubs. Right. In this new environment, what skills do you think the leaders should acquire to manage this hybrid environment, the hybrid of humans and agents?
I think, again, it's very important to know what is it that the AI is supposed to do and what is it that the human intelligence is supposed to do, and accordingly plan for how you are working together, right? Your collaboration, co-creation, innovation, strategizing, everything has to be planned in a way that once you have clarity on who's managing what, that's exactly how you can go forward. And it's also very important to be open to learning, be curious, be okay to fail fast, learn fast, be agile, because if you don't do that, you won't be able to move forward. And you also have to think years ahead, because you don't want to miss the bus, because this trend is already here. It's moving fast. It's here. We are not on the experimental phase. In fact, they say 93% of Indian leaders are already going to be adopting AI into their workspaces in the next 12 to 18 months. So it's already here. We are not in the experimental phase. So just have to understand what is the value that you're going to bring to the table and what is the task of the AI agent, so that then you can collaborate together and then plan strategies going forward.
Thank you so much. I mean, the data is staggering and mind-blowing in a way.
Yeah.
Sridevi, I want to invite you for my next question. I'm sure this is a question that a lot of people in the audience have, right? At Salesforce, we believe the jobs of tomorrow will be held by people that can upskill, learn how to manage AI, and build agents and develop AI fluency, right? In this world, what advice do you have for all of the audience as to how they can future-proof their career? And I have a personal question for you. How do you keep up with AI fluency?
Let me try to take the first one, which is what I'm trying to do myself and also definitely talking to teams at large is, and this was mentioned pretty much all through the day, a couple of words that came up multiple times is stay curious. I think I would say stay curious is generally a good thing, not just in the AI world. It's just general because your world is always expanding and evolving. And if you want to expand your world from where you are, staying curious is a great attribute to have, because the more curious you are, the more you explore, the more you explore, the more you learn, the more you learn, the more you are relevant. And in the world of AI, where things again are moving so fast, the differentiation of what you do and what your teams do and what your company does is starting to get very competitive in the larger scheme of things. And very quickly, we are not going to be measured so much on our outcomes, but as a vendor, as Salesforce as a vendor to our customers, and we have our esteemed customers here, I don't think, there are many other vendors who can provide similar solutions, but there are not many vendors who will be there as an advisory when you need us. And maybe I can be a better advisor for you, where I can come to you proactively and I'm able to tell you, here are some signals we see, or here is some sentiments we are observing. Would you consider this? So it's not a conversation always about what's the next best action for business, but what is the next best action in terms of what is good for you. And if you are always able to trust me as a vendor on what is the next best action that is good for you, then that is a symbiotic relationship that is much more sticky. And I think it goes back to the same things we talked about before: emotional intelligence, empathy for customer, empathy for the employees in the same way. The second part, which is how am I doing to keep up my AI fluency? Sometimes very poorly, but I want to do exceptionally well. So the Salesforce is great. They've made sure we all have access to some of the cool AI licenses with Claude Code. And I'm in a customer success organization. So the minute it was announced, I downloaded it and I followed all the instructions, and I had a terminal. Okay, I'm at a leadership level in Salesforce. I see a terminal with a prompt and that's blinking. It's like, oh my God, what do I do with this now? Like, there is no button to click. There's no, there's nothing to travel my mouse with. I actually have to do CLI, which is a command level instruction, which I don't even know if half the audience even knows what a CLI is anymore. But Arundhati said this very well in the morning, is AI as a technology has made technology, it has democratized technology. All of us can become coders to some extent. And she used a very beautiful analogy of the tip of the iceberg. You really don't have to see all the complexity that happens below the waterline. You just have to really sharpen your context, which in other words we call as prompt today, right? You just sharpen your prompt and then go on refining that prompt. That's what I'm trying to get really good at, is when to use Claude, when to use Gemini, when to use ChatGPT, because they all are good in different ways. And I'm trying to become a portfolio leader, just like my stock portfolio. I'm trying to manage my AI tool portfolio for the best productivity.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts very candidly there. And of course, I think that's a reality with most of us here, that we are trying to navigate through different tools, and the tools themselves are evolving so fast that just by the time when I feel comfortable that I know this tool enough, it has evolved exponentially and I'm trying to catch up. But thank you.
But it used to earlier we just using it as Google, right? And then slowly you add in so much more information, add more context and bring in more information. It's just evolving. Even for us, even just to play with it has changed from time
Right.
to time.
I think the shift is more to do with how we think and approach our day-to-day work. It's more about unlearning than learning, because mental conditioning is so much that our natural instincts take us to what we have learned and acclimatized ourselves for past several years. We have to let it go and think fresh and new and embrace what's new, which is exciting. Thank you.
True.
Right. Anu, I have a question for you. At Airbus, you are leading transformation in this large establishment, right? What is your playbook for building momentum through your culture right? And how do you approach change management and get your teams to embrace the new?
This is a very interesting topic and very close to my heart, because managing change at scale is extremely tough. Sometimes it feels like you're trying to steer this big ship, and you push and you turn, you put in all your energy, and all you can see is that the tip moves a little bit. And so it's extremely hard. And so for me, I think, when I sit down to think and when I crystallize what does it take to even turn that little tip, I think it comes down to three things. The first is the clarity. And I think this is absolutely key for managing change, because where are we going? What are we trying to do? And I've got to be extremely clear in my thought process. And unless I'm clear in my thought process, it is not fair on the organization that I initiate a change. I think when we come down to it, people do not resist change, they resist ambiguity. And it's extremely important that we do not leave the vision open to ambiguity. So I need to have thought through where is it that I'm taking the organization and where is it that I'm steering towards. The second is communication, relentless communication. Every opportunity I get, whether it's a town hall, whether it's a team meeting, whether it's a coffee conversation, the messages and the behaviors and the culture that I would love for this organization to stand for, I stand for it, I show it, I talk about it, and just constantly talk about it. And while sometimes, because you're speaking about it 50 times, you feel that, oh, am I overdoing it? The reality is you're speaking to 50 different people. Sometimes someone might hear it twice, but all that it does for them is it makes it crystal clear that you're not saying one thing today and coming up with a brilliant new idea 5 days later. And so the second for me is communication and relentless communication. The third is your actions need to back everything you've said. And whether it is decisive positive action, decisive negative action, everything, the way you give your time, every piece of action has to back where you're going. And I genuinely feel change management is not a one-time event. It's much more. It is about creating that envelope, creating that environment where every day when people walk in, they know where we're going, and therefore they're all steering in the same direction to take us there faster. So that's the way I would approach it.
I mean, I'm short of words to express how I'm feeling inside. This was leadership 101 right there, right? So I really like the way you said that people do not resist change, but they resist ambiguity. And there are two very key things as leaders that we have to take away: that communication, relentless communication. There is nothing called as over communication, right? And what is really important is to walk the talk, right? Thank you so much.
So if I may add, wonderfully said, Anu, and I think with the because we talked about staying curious as well, with curiosity, what you just mentioned, the clarity, the communication and the clarity, really, that then inspires people to be courageous. Because otherwise they're always on the fringes, wondering, should I, shouldn't I, will I, may I do this? So it kind of takes that away. It gives courage to organization at large. And very, very well said. One is to have the clarity, communicate relentlessly, because each time you communicate, you and I'm like, I told you this, why are you asking me again? And like, it's a surprise.
You're absolutely spot on, right? Because when there is a cultural direction, and I speak, say, to my N-2s, and there are about 80 of them, and then I speak to them, I tell them that, and then they tell me that, can you please tell this in the town hall? Because then it helps me tell the same thing. And that shows up as courage. For them, it gives them the agency to enforce what needs to be enforced.
Absolutely. True.
Lovely. Moving on to Praneeth. So you've seen several organizations at work, right? And you see several leaders and several playbooks that are playing right in front of you. In this environment, what are you seeing in terms of how high-performing leaders are reshaping and reallocating their time?
See, AI actually gives back 30 to 50% of our time, right? So you can totally redesign your entire day and plan as to what you want to do. So asking the right kind of questions is extremely crucial. Am I on the right path? Am I taking the right decision? Do I need to tweak something to change the process so that we can get better outcomes? Am I missing something? Am I not seeing something? These are the kind of questions that leaders usually are now getting into. And again, communication, like she mentioned, is extremely crucial. They are having a lot of collaboration, and people are getting together to huddle up as teams to understand as to where they want their organization to be. In fact, we are seeing a trend at WeWork where 30 to 50% of spaces that they ask for are collab spaces. They want open spaces. And the flex industry as well is moving by double the size by 2030. So folks are saying that we want collaboration spaces, we want to have more conversations, because we have like relationship building. Deepening that has become extremely crucial, because AI has taken away a lot of their time where they had to actually figure out what they needed to do in order to bring in a client, or in order to bring in more business and revenue to their table, versus now focusing on the larger picture, which is not replaceable by AI.
Absolutely. Now, I want to put Sridevi on the spot a little bit. If I am an aspiring Salesforce employee, or for every aspiring Salesforce employee, what skills are you looking for in the AI world, Sridevi? And how do you actually distinguish high performers from the rest in this world?
Maybe I won't answer the second one.
She's like,
we are all high performers here, right?
I
and
agree.
high potential, we talked about that earlier. But the first one, what I would look for, and I'll look for this in myself too, is besides the curiosity comment, which I made earlier, is adaptability. I think like I said, we are also putting a lot of cognitive load on everyone at this point in terms of what we expect them to do. But we are also asking to make that space where you can feel like you can express what is working, what's not working, where do you need help, where do you need to collaborate. I would definitely say curiosity, adaptability, and staying very, very focused on the outcome. Like, what outcome are you trying to drive towards? Because the more you ask yourself that question upfront, almost like multiple questions, dig down deep enough till you get to the rock bottom of that, till you cannot ask the why anymore. Why is that important? Why do I need it? Why is that relevant? What would I do with it? Keep asking that till you become very crystal clear. Encourage conversation and collaboration, and then really go back and think about how you're going to approach it. That upfront time really yields the best and the sharpest results, because in the world of AI, the foot soldiers is your AI agents.
Yeah.
The sharpshooters and the snipers are really the humans, right? So you really want to be very clear, very targeted, very precise, and then use all the tools at large to help you achieve it.
Absolutely. I really like the way you put it, right? The foot soldiers is the AI, and that's how we need to approach it as well. And at the end of the day, we are the ones as humans making a difference. Panelists, I must say, this has been such a lovely conversation and a lot of key takeaways for me here personally. And thank you so much for your candor, for your insights, and inspiring me and entire audience. I'm sure audience wants to hear you guys for another couple of hours, but we are out of time. So give it up for our panelists one more time. And thank you for being lovely audience.
Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you.
As humans, how do we make sense of it? What is the story behind? So to look around those corners and beyond, right? And to our lovely audience here, I hope you all start your AI upskilling journey today. And with that, let's take a quick 15-minute break. Grab your coffee, stay hydrated, and see.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force one in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture, and our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at GELS, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help your quality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game-changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation.
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force One in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We at Quality Groups are the heart and soul of our culture, and our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls, it is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at Gels, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help your quality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game-changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'd been with Salesforce for 12 years now. It has given me wonderful opportunities to be myself. If I could describe Salesforce in one word, it would be home.
It's absolutely buzzing because there are so many new things that people are experiencing, so many new ideas that they are coming across.
First thing that you'll notice is an atmosphere where everybody is driven by innovation,
People really thrive in our high-performing culture, especially engineers. Our engineers deal with the whole tech stack. So you get to sort of develop your expertise in all parts of software, which I think is wonderful for engineers.
It's so exciting to be part of this AI revolution because any new thing that comes, Salesforce is already there doing it.
Salesforce is at the forefront of revolutionizing the way our customers interact with their customers by building in a lot of artificial intelligence.
It's helping our customers reach new heights.
One thing I love about Salesforce, hugely passionate about customer success. We make sure that whatever features or functionality we build is solving genuine customer problems.
Just as we are creating new things, we are also thinking about how we can serve the community.
One of the core values that Salesforce has is equality. When I see there is so much focus to make the workplace very inclusive, that gives me immense pride.
Salesforce lives by its own values, and one is being extremely empathetic to not only the customers but to the employees as well.
They always say families are always first. That is very important.
We give some of the best benefits in the industry.
The benefit that I loved was parental leave. I loved how Salesforce gave me that freedom to be able to satisfy that part of my life.
One of the reasons why I think people should be excited about coming on board with us is because we are a growing company. As the company grows, your career, your dreams, your potentials will also get realized.
Global Equality Leadership Summit at the San Francisco Salesforce Tower. This is where our global equality leaders come together with their executive sponsors to build agent-ready future skills and drive business impact, all with equality, our core value, at the center.
All the equality groups have so much energy. The Latino Force One in particular has a lot of energy, and I feed off that.
It's relentless, it's connected, and it's unapologetic.
We equality groups are the heart and soul of our culture, and our culture is a key differentiator.
Equality for all means that anyone can basically learn anything you want. There is no barrier, there are no walls. It is open for all.
It means humans and AI working together to be more impactful, bringing the agentic enterprise into our everyday, into everything that we do.
I personally feel that it is because of equality groups that I was able to get my first management role here at Salesforce.
When you have 83,000 employees, equality is going to do what policy and procedure could never in terms of getting you to the right place at the right time. It's just a huge shortcut and time saver.
Our strength at Salesforce is bringing diverse opinions and perspectives together. And so by coming together in person at GELS, we're able to make sure that our agentic solutions represent diverse voices and perspectives that give us a competitive edge.
So my advice for folks that might be sitting on the sidelines, just lean in. Your network, your connections, your know-how, especially if you've been at Salesforce for some time, you can help your quality group do so much more.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trailblazing Women.
We are at the cusp of something similar to how broad-based the internet was. Strongly believe that, like the internet, AI is going to be a colleague, a counterpart, empower everything we do.
This is the time of AI evolution. It impacts every citizen and it impacts every organization.
I really believe we are going to have productivity agents in our personal life and professional life, and it's going to be game-changing.
We believe that technology evolves fast, but it's very important that trust and adaptability is always there.
For us, keeping the lights on, making sure that we are always delivering value to the customers is very important.
So I always had big ideas and I always thought that I had the right to discuss them. I was encouraged to sort of express myself in more formal ways.
Get the right information to really get the depth that I need to be able to switch context is such a superpower. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Without further ado, please join me in welcoming back to the stage our moderator, President and CEO, Salesforce South Asia, Arundhati Bhattacharya. And our luminary keynote speaker, former captain of Indian Women cricket team, Mithali Raj.
So, welcome back, everybody. I hope you all had a good break, and I'm looking forward to this conversation hugely, and I hope so are you. So, Mithali, first of all, my compliments. You're looking really good. Let me say that. That's the first thing. And the second thing is thanks for making the time to travel all the way to Bangalore and be with us, because you have had a really inspiring career. You've been at the top of in women's cricket for almost 2 decades. And we know that in any kind of career, to be at the top for a long time is very tough. And especially in sports, where you have to have a lot of physical and mental stability and resilience. How did you make that happen? And the changes that have happened over that period of time, how did you handle that change? What was it that you really tried to do in order to keep yourself relevant?
Well, firstly, I think I'm quite excited to be here because it is all women. I mean, I've been part of many events, and there were some where there hardly representation of women, but today the representation is pretty much 100%. So I'm thrilled to be here. And yeah, when we talk about sports career and spanning about 2 decades, one thing which is pretty constant, if you ask anybody who had a longer career, is that change has always been constant. But I think I've tried to be more fluid in terms of the way I've developed my skill or my approach. But there are certain things that is non-negotiable in terms of the values, the core values that I'm sure each one of us would be having when you're pursuing something like, working hard or work ethic or integrity. But these are non-negotiable. But as long as the skill that you're working on, if you're having a very open mindset of developing things, I think that's where the balance is all about. There are certain things that needs to be there in our lives to ground us when we go through certain rough patches. The internal compass that we call, that is because of the values that we have. But change, if you accept change, if you embrace it, I think you will not see that as something something that is challenging. Many people look at change as intimidating. Like, yes, when you see something very different, the first thing our body, our mind says is it's tough, because obviously we don't know, we've never done that before. And with sport, the ever evolving formats like the T20 format, now there is T10. At one point, one day was a new format. Earlier it was only test matches. So every once in 4 or 5 years, you see a different format. Along with that, with technology, there is advancement of fitness criteria now. The players are far more stronger, fitter, and quick on the field. You talk about coaching manuals; they have changed because when the sport changes, in and around it, everything changes. As much as even when we change as people around us also change. So, but then if you see that as something very challenging or tough, I think you're sort of resisting the growth. As long as you embrace it, I think anticipate that it is going to change in 2 years' time. Perhaps there are certain things that will change, which is right now the most happening thing. If we know that it is going to change, we are open to that. I think that has really helped me with the long career. And yes, the physical and the emotional and the mental space as well, because when we are young, when I was a young player, I thought if I master certain way of doing things, that would bring me stability. But over the period of time, I've realized that one has to understand that longevity doesn't come with you know the way we see our ability. It has to keep changing. Longevity, I think, is comes um, when you accept that there are certain things that needs to change with time. Like they say in our sports, unlearn as much as you learn. So when you learn certain things for a certain period of time, that's relevant. After a point, you have to unlearn that, make space to learn something new. So I think that is also my learning through this long journey.
So I think you answered quite a number of things in that one statement. You talked about the fact that change is a constant. You talked about the fact that, you have to be uncomfortable and you have to experiment. You talked about the fact that you have to adopt different styles. Mm. And you basically talked about the fact that you have to embrace whatever is coming your way rather than be close to it. So I think all very important points, which a lot of other people have made here as well. And I'm sure many of you are practicing that as well, but that needs to become second nature if you need to have a long stint at the top, as she had. Let me ask you one other question. Cricket is like a religion in India, okay? But not women's cricket. In fact, women's cricket had very low visibility till about maybe 5 years back. Okay, and now it's become a very high visibility kind of a sport. There are a lot of people who follow it very closely, and you have experienced some of that change. So, how did you manage, that piece where you were very low visibility, very low investment, to a place where now people really want to invest, really want to get the best out of the people over there. They're really keen. The viewership has gone up. You're much more under the scanner. So how does one, what was your style while you went from being a very low visibility team to something which is far more under scrutiny all the time?
Well, I think even when the fact that when I got into cricket, I didn't know that we had a women's cricket team.
Okay.
Or the names of like Shanta or Diana Adulji or Sandhya Agarwal until I progressed to, say, the senior level. And that's when my seniors spoke a lot about the first captain that we had for the women's team. Um, it was, as you rightly said, for the longest time, it was in the obscurity despite having a team, women playing cricket in our country. But it was pretty uncommon for a fact that not many people have seen women with a bat, with a ball. We've seen boys play or men play on the streets, but we've never seen girls play. And it wasn't televised as much. But when we talk about other sports, you knew that there's men's tennis, there women's tennis, and similarly hockey, you have men and women team. But when it came to cricket, it was men all the way. And even the discussions, roundtable chats, everything, when we talk about cricket, it was always been men. uh, but I think those those women who've played the sport before me, for them it was very challenging to um, to play the sport without resources, very minimal support from the parents or from homes. In fact, some women pretty much had to really fight their way through to get to just play the sport. I think they've played only for passion. Obviously there was hardly any money involved in the sport. I took up in 92, 93. The first time that I was introduced to the sport, I've seen my brother, because I was accompanying my brother to an academy, and I've seen all those young boys playing this sport. And I told my father, I also want to play this sport because Bhaiya is playing. So he said, "Do you see any girls here?" I said, "No." So this sport is not for girls. But my brother's coach, he one day gave me an opportunity through just few tennis balls, and perhaps I've shown him far more seriousness and potential than my brother. And he felt I have the potential to play for India, but he doesn't see that for my brother. So that's how I think he was the one who perhaps sowed the seed. We say that uh, to see maybe that this girl can play the sport. And my dad was pretty curious. Okay, if the coach is saying let's put this girl into the sport, so you just need someone to sort of instill that confidence or find that or see that potential in you when you yourself don't are unable to see that, which I think credit to the coach. uh, the the journey from there has been really tough, is for a fact that cricket back then wasn't for women first. Second, it was not very expensive as tennis, but still the equipments were expensive for a middle class family to support a young girl to play a sport professionally when the returns are zero. There's absolutely no returns on it. You only play because you're passionate, the joy of playing a sport. And for me, it was just to see my father, make my father proud by playing for India. That was his dream. That was the dream of my coach. Um, Despite playing for India, there were many times we were shunned. We didn't get the basic resources or basic facility that an international player or someone who represents India should be given. And yet, I think for all those women at that time, what kept us going is the fact that if the sport is alive, there will come a time where it will see a green pasture. But right now, perhaps we are the ones who have to do the hard work. We have to keep it alive. And I think that was so strong, that emotion was so strong, that all of them, when India lifted the World Cup last year, it was very surreal for all of us, because that is something we wanted people to recognize women's cricket in our country. We wanted people to appreciate the sport, because the girls do put in the same hard work like every other men cricketer does. Is just the visibility. In today's time, what you see is what retains in your mind. And I think we've started to see that change since 2017. I think the first time social media was there, and that really helped us to sort of enhance the profile of the sport. And then the ICC did a great job in marketing the sport, and of course, the cricketers have put in the best standard of cricket on television for people to sit up and watch. It's perhaps a culmination of so many variables, belief, extended period of excellence, that the team continued to do better, get better, beat big teams, and a little bit of visibility, sponsorships, and administration. I think all of it has come to a point where then we've started to see that the sport was slowly rising. I think it had its own journey. I would not compare it with the men's cricket. As much as men's cricket has its own journey, I think women's cricket and women's sport in our country also is going through its own journey.
Okay. So, two things that I take from this answer. One is, of course, that if you see the seed of a talent in anybody, please speak up. It's important that you become sponsors and mentors yourself wherever you can. And of course, I'm hoping that y'all have the sponsors and mentors in whichever organization you are in, and that you really and truly have their support as you had, because as you said, somebody noticed that seed in you and planted that notion that you could play for India, which is a great aim to have. The other thing I think, is we name this Trailblazing Women. Okay, and that's because the platform that we have for educating, for skilling our people, it's called Trailhead. Okay, and there are various trails that we follow in order to get sort of skilled in anything that we want to do. But basically, the idea is that you are beating a trail as you go along. So you are absolutely a trailblazing woman. So you are very much one of us. And thank you for doing what you did, because it's so very important.
Well, I think, ma'am, well, it is good to hear that. But I think before me, there have been many other women who've been a trailblazer, because they've perhaps laid a little more stronger foundation for a young kid like me to take up the sport, and then we've passed it on to the next generation and the current generation and so forth. So I think perhaps every generation need to have trailblazers, so that they build a far more stronger foundation. You keep building on it.
True.
For the coming generations. Uh, and also the fact that when you feel that there is not much of recognition, I think if motivation is tied up to immediate results, then perhaps we wouldn't have come so far, because we didn't have recognition, we didn't have people applauding for our hard work despite winning games or tournaments. But I felt that the motivation to see the sport in a better light, in a better place, is something that inspired all of us to continue. And that's what I would say, that don't feel disheartened the fact that you're not been acknowledged for your work, as long as your perspective is long term and you're aiming something bigger than the current moment, and that perhaps will help you to sort of continue on your journey.
I think that's extremely important what you have said, because often what happens is, if you're not acknowledged immediately, you feel disheartened that nobody's really noticing me. But believe me, somebody or the other is. And when the time comes, you will get rewarded for whatever you've done that is really and truly, above the ordinary. So very good advice, I must say. But tell me something, and I'm curious about this. What happens in companies like ours is that, first of all, you work with different generations. In fact, I often joke with my colleagues that their average age was 30, and I joined and made it 31. But then, that's that's the kind of youngsters we work with, a lot of young people, and many of them have been very high achievers in their schools, in their colleges, and things like that. And you bring them all together in a team. So everybody's been a star in their own right. And now you've got them together. How do you ensure that they collaborate? How do you meld them into a team? What's your experience about creating that team spirit?
Well, first thing I should say, ma'am, you've been very savvy with the current generation taking selfies and all. I've not really come to that yet. I still struggle with players like Shefali coming in, like, let's take a selfie, and they click about 10, 15 in different angles, and then I lose patience. I said, you just need to take one picture. Why about 15 pictures? So,
No, but I must tell the audience our selfie story. You finish and then I'll tell them. Yeah.
I guess, like, when I led India for about good 17, 18 years, and that is about good 3-4 generation of players. So the first time I had a full-time assignment as a captain was in 2005, and I had all seniors playing under me, and I was one of perhaps the second youngest in the 15-member squad. 1 month before the World Cup, because World Cup was the assignment, that was my first assignment. I didn't have any experience of leading a big side in the domestic. So I was pretty raw, a rookie captain, and I had a lot of self-doubt if I would I'm up for the challenge, because you're leading India in a World Cup. It's just not any bilateral series or a home series. And then you have a couple of former captains that I have played under are going to play under me. So the tables reversed, and I had an injury just 3 weeks before the World Cup. So I had a lot of things on my plate. The first thing that I decided is, should I go for the World Cup or not with the injury? Then I made a decision. I went for the World Cup, and when we arrived in South Africa, I told one of my teammate, who happened to be a very dear friend, I said, I don't know if I'm going to lead well. I don't know where India would end up in this World Cup. She said, why do you have doubts? I said, everybody are seniors. They have experience. I have none. So she said, why don't you go and speak to them? That's a very, at that time, that suggestion was, I felt it was something very regular. You just go and speak. But I didn't realize over a period of time such an important thing that was, she in some way has told me that you cover the halfway. Let you reach out to them. You don't become small because you're the captain. You reach out to your senior. And I did. And I just spoke to them. I asked them what suggestions that they can give, and it turned out that they felt that, okay, she values us. She still values us in the team, because in India, I don't know abroad, but when someone is stripped of a title, whether it's leadership, whatever, in corporate, or even in teams, in sport, when you're a captain and you're taken off, we see that person as not so valuable in the team. It seems like they've fallen about 3-4 steps down in the pyramid. That's the feeling that we give such people. And as a leader, if you're able to elevate them and still make them feel wanted, because what they had, I didn't. They had experience. I just had new energy. So it needs to come together. So she said, you won't become small by reaching out to them, because just because you're a captain, it will show that you need them. And one of the games in the semi-final, where again I got injured, it's those seniors who got the team through to the finals. So in my first assignment, India was runners up in the World Cup, but I had a team where all of them were very supportive of a young captain. But my challenge started post that, because once the seniors left, you had players of my own age, where we've played in under 19, under 16. So that was one of the best periods, I would say, because you're dealing with players who are of your own age. You have fun. They value you on the field. Off field, they see you as one among them, as a friend, as a teammate. So the communication is far more easy, and you sort of know their pulse. Then came the juniors, who've seen me as an idol. Growing up, they've always said, like, we've heard a lot about you and all that. So when they come into the team, initially you need to make the contact, like try and communicate. And then came those players who were not even born when I made my debut for India. And I think I had the toughest time reaching out to them, because I think one is that the age gap is so much that neither they were able to relate to me, nor I was able to relate to them. Initially, I said, okay, let me crack some jokes for the sake of it and just laugh even if I don't understand their jokes. Because just to make them feel comfortable in the room, because you need to give out that vibe and energy that, you're not bigger than the team. And that's what these young people, when they read and listen so much about the stars or the role models, they expect them to be larger than life thing when they see them in person. And it's up to us to sort of make them comfortable. So I tried all of this. I ended up tearing one of the girl, because I cracked a joke. She didn't understand and she started to cry. And I felt so guilty about it. And I said, this is not working. Then another approach I took is about meeting them and communicating on the field. I felt that was the best, because while we are playing, they are in that zone and I'm in that zone. I'm able to express freely and they're able to absorb it as well. I think that worked for that generation. So rather than putting any generation down, I think every generation has a way that we need to deal, and they will be able to reciprocate. And also the fact that the current generation wants are very expressive, they're very confident. Like a 16-year-old Shafali is very different to 16-year-old Mithali, because I absolutely had no idea when I toured England in 99. I was full of nerves when I scored my first 100. I didn't celebrate because, you know, teenager of those years is very different to teenagers in the current generation. Today, when I ask her, she's quite expressive about what the team needs to do. Whereas back then, we are always given direction. We are spoken by the leadership group. This is what you need to do. No questions asked. You just follow it. But today, they are open to asking questions. They want to know why behind decisions. They want to be part of decision making. So one has to sort of understand that. And if you're able to, as I said, if you're more flexible, I think it will help greatly to sort of mingle with different generations. And I think the bottom line is, if we understand the fact that we don't know everything, we are also learning as time goes. As much as I spoke about change, everything is new for everyone. All of us are learning.
I don't doubt that at all. And I'm sure we learned a lot from that last question about how you deal with the different generations. And by the way, any of you who believe that I need to change my style or whatever it is that I'm using, please feel open to just send me a Slack. We have Slack as a medium of communication. So just send me that even if I'm not around. And I'm sure I'll take note and try and do things accordingly. So that's a great one. But yeah, you're right about the selfies. These youngsters, they know the way to actually click a selfie. And like, I am always so embarrassed about asking for selfies. And that's why I wanted to tell you this story. I was in one of these award functions in Mumbai. And I was at the function, and Mithali and Tapsi Pannu, who plays Mithali in her biopic, she was also there. The two of them were there together to receive an award. And because I knew my daughter would love it if I took a picture with the two of them, so even though I was feeling terribly embarrassed, I went and asked them for a selfie. So it's one of the few selfies where you see these two tall ladies beside me looking really great, and me in the middle looking quite dumpy and, in my sari and whatever. But that's one of the few selfies that I have. So I really thought that I should talk about it. I think Tapsi clicked it ultimately. It was beyond me to click it. Anyway, so she clicked it actually for me. But we have very little time, and I must ask you a little about AI, because this is all about AI and leading in the AI era. So, you today are in the role of a commentator, a mentor, a consultant, a committee member. So you are doing a number of other things. And the amount of data and AI that used to be used when you were in the game, I don't think was anything close to the amount that's being used currently. So do you think that the way we look at the game has changed? Do you use a lot of data? What are the tools that you use and find useful? What is it that you see really changing in the game on account of the advent of AI?
Well, I think the game remains the same. It's just that the way we interpret has definitely evolved with AI. And as a player in the past, of course, when we had the video analysis, it was more to do with only very limited way of gauging our skill. I think with AI, what happened is it is even more into detail. Like you can actually get out a lot of data or information about a particular player. Say a batter who, when face a bowler in a different conditions or on a different pitch, different situations in a game. So there's a lot of data, but then it all boils down to how much or what you want to pick out of it. That is far more relevant for athletes. But then it definitely has removed the surprise element in the sport, because everything is out there, even for a layman to get his hands on, to see the sport in a very different lens. As a broadcaster, I think this information that we get, we try and come up with a different narrative or a story or interesting story with the stats that we are given through data, through AI, and put it out to people. Because when we say, like, I don't know, I just have an instinct that there is going to be a wicket, but you know for a fact that the data gives you that so much percentage of it, if a batter faces this kind of a situation, there's a 90% chance of a wicket. And so based on that, we all sort of take a guess on air that there's going to be a wicket. So that's how it helps us to sort of even moderate our stints when we are live on television. And I think it has also helped largely for cricketers from rural areas, where when we speak about resources or coaching manual at one point, which is only accessible to elite athletes or people from the cities, now with AI, I think in the interiors of our country, if someone wants to learn how to play the technicality of batting or bowling, they can find those videos and a little bit of information through this, and start training, or different sort of way of different methods of training. So it does really help. But I guess you need to have people monitoring that, because more information out there, but what do you want to pick out of it?
Okay. So one last question on AI, and that is, if you had AI solve one major challenge for women in sports or in leadership, be it a bias, skilling, visibility, what would be that one thing that you would want AI to do?
I think, of course, because sports has been my field, so I would want it to sort of be accessible to pretty much everybody who wants to learn the sport or get into sport. Even if you don't have proper coaches, you don't have proper academies, or access to resources. Through AI, if you're able to find some other method or substitute where you could sort of build your skills, and with limited resources, how you can prepare yourself. Because when I work with young girls, because as I said, I've been a consultant for Andhra Cricket Association. That means to say it is more of districts and villages. There are kids as young as 13, 14 years who travel 2 kilometers to just get access to some nets. So in such a situation, to find a good coach or a mentor is very difficult, and sometimes they don't even have enough money for 3 meals a day. So you can understand, like, what sort of challenges they must be going through. So for them, if they are able to access AI, and through that, if they are able to develop, or if that can help them to get better skill wise, in whatever way that they need help, I think that is something I would love AI to do.
Wonderful, because I think for a country as big as ours, it is AI alone that can do this. There's no other way out.
But the only challenge with AI is that, as we spoke, it really doesn't have the human element. It doesn't
Yeah.
have someone to sort of pep you up or just talk few warm things. Because when people go through tough times, you don't need monitors. You don't need technology. You just need people around to inspire you, motivate you. I know, I mean, these are all, it's in a way it does helps us, but as long as we still need to be dependent on each other.
Sure.
Because as I said, all technology is good, but at the end of the day, we still people, we still have emotions and feelings. If we need to express it, we need to even understand that, be around for each other.
Right. So time's up, but one last question before I let you go. And that is, given the resilience that you have shown, going through so many stages of your career, still being relevant to what you are doing, what would be one line advice that you would like to give to our audience over here as to, what they should do in order to have that kind of longevity in whatever they are doing? What would be something that you would really want them to go back with?
Well, I would just say that don't trade your self worth for exterior validation, because that is, validation from people will always change depending on time and the form. But when your own belief, when you know that you're doing the right thing, you know why you're doing what you're doing, and if you have belief in your ability, I think one should pursue that with a lot of ferocity, irrespective of whether what people think. That's something I would always tell everybody, that don't give the power of destroying you to the world. That's something my mom has told me when I was going through one of my darkest times. She said, that power only you hold, only you can destroy yourself. Don't give that to anybody else. So a lot of things we can construct. Today we feel that it's the end of the world because things didn't work out for you, but you still have the power to construct and build your life right from ground level.
That's wonderful. And that is truly hitting it out of the park, whether in the AI era or not. So another round of applause. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Arundhati and Mitali. What an incredibly impactful session that was. The way you highlighted the power of sponsorship and mentorship really stood out. But what really hit home to me was no matter how much self doubt creeps in, believing in ourselves is absolutely essential. And this is what truly drives that change and growth. Thanks again. With that, now we close out this inspiring day. Please join me in welcoming to the stage SVP and Chief Equality and Engagement Officer of Salesforce, Alexandra Legend Siegel.
Amazing. How's everyone doing today? Yes. How was the session? Did you like it? Yes, super inspiring. Well, I just want to first introduce myself. I'm the Chief Equality Engagement Officer at Salesforce, and my team put on this incredible event, which is all about elevating, inspiring, trailblazing women, both in business and in AI. I want to thank you for taking the time to prioritize your own learning and your own growth. And I think we've heard some incredible nuggets. I loved what we just heard, which was only you have the power to destroy yourself. And what resonated to me was the agency that we all have, both in this AI transformation and in our careers. So I hope that you're taking away some inspiration, some guidance. I hope you start experimenting with AI. I hope you start to think about your career in new ways. And just remember that it's not just about making sure women have a seat at the table when we are designing the future. It's about us writing the future. Because with women at the helm, we can do absolutely anything. So, yes. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the networking, and I hope you had an incredible experience. Thank you so much.
Alexandra. Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you all for joining us at Trailblazing Women's Summit. Before you leave, I encourage you to head over to our Salesforce Careers social channels and share your favorite moments from today's summit. We would love to see your selfies and group photos. We hope you leave today's discussion feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to lead in the AI revolution. Here's to our trailblazing women. Guests, can you please take a moment to fill out our quick survey to let us know your experience, how it was today, and give us feedback on what you would like to see next year. Please take your phones and capture this QR code. We believe that feedback is a gift and we value any feedback that you can provide us on your experience at Trailblazing Women.